I'm going to really treat my body like crap today.
I was running on 3 cups of coffee and no food. Hey, girl. Can you hear me? You there? Oh, wait, you're muted.
Hi.
Yay, hi.
Hi, hi, hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I have my notes, but I'll probably just throw the notes out the window.
I think that's exactly what will happen. I just grabbed these off the printer and I was like, I know, Mary, and we're going to go very much off course and it's going to be amazing.
How much time are we doing? Because
Let's let's do 30 minutes and then we can edit out what the ums and that kind of stuff. So
not
we'll
that I ever say those.
I know, heavens no. Look, here I go. Okay, so I'm gonna have you. Oh, let me grab more water before we start.
Yeah, I'm going to grab my earrings if that's
It's a
okay.
question I'll ask when we're recording. Do you do electrolyte water?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we
We're
need
going
to
to talk
talk
about
about
that.
that too. Yeah,
I
we'll.
always say it's amazing how productive you can be in the 2 minutes before a meeting starts.
Right. Look, I know lipstick, earrings.
Lipstick,
Yep.
earring, bathroom, electrolytes,
Yep. I love it. Yeah, I do
toothbrush.
want to talk about electrolyte water because I'm seeing all these mixed reviews on quality of salt and magnesium and yeah.
I think some of that is people, it's like I still drink Element. Now they're making a stink about it. I just think that's somebody who like realizes that's the market. And so now they're trying to discredit, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Amanda.
what's that?
Amanda just joined. I love this. Hold on. Amanda, I love you. I forgot to, so I didn't re-register you. I sent an email saying we're going to do this as a YouTube rather than a webinar. But listen, I would love for you to stay
Okay.
on. If
Well, I have a meeting at 12:30 anyway.
and that's when we're going to be done.
Whatever.
We're going to be done at 12:30. This is so cool.
Okay.
Amanda, this is Mary. And Mary, Amanda's one of my
Mary.
dear friends. Um, Mom of two, a big time, like high level C-suite person. And so this is perfect for her to be listening to. Um,
Cool. What do you want?
You,
So you're recording right now for a YouTube
we'll
video?
edit this part, but yeah, we're going to record.
Okay.
And you can stay on camera, you can pop off whatever you want, but we're going
I'll
to
just go off and
okay, we're going to talk to each other about
okay.
how nutrition is directly tied to burnout and how what you eat and how you rest or don't rest can help with that recovery from burnout. So,
Ugh, I need to hear every minute
right,
of this.
you
So
and me
this is
both.
awesome.
well, too,
Okay.
it would be nice if she's off camera, just listening to it, if she has any questions that you want to
I can put them in
type.
the chat or
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
awesome.
Cool.
She,
Okay, yeah, we'll be done by 12:30 because we're all
Okay.
busy moms.
Yeah, for real, right? I'm
Love it.
overscheduled here. So,
I completely agree. I'm going to tell Jamie the same thing.
okay.
you have
Jamie,
your waiting room disabled
oh, I don't know. Let's
or
see.
just, yeah, like, do you know where to do that?
Uh-uh.
So go to, um, hmm, oh, because it's not mine.
It's fine.
Right at the bottom, there should be something where it's like controls
It
and
says
then
more.
scroll up and say enable waiting room.
Okay. I don't know. Breakout rooms. It's fine. I know Jamie and Amanda were the only two I didn't send
Okay.
we're not doing this thing to. So
Okay.
Jamie, hopefully you can hear me. We
Yes.
decided that hi. We decided that Mary and I were just, rather than doing a big webinar, because there's so much to talk about in regards to nutrition and burnout, that we sent an email out to the folks that registered and said, hey, we're going to actually make this a less than 30-minute YouTube video rather than a 45 to an hour session. So you and Amanda, I forgot to send that to. Y'all can listen. And if you have questions while we're talking, pop them in the chat because that'd be really helpful for us. But we will be done by 12:30. So this just looks a little different, but the content's the same. And now we're going to record it and put it on YouTube. So perfect. Thank you, Jamie. Okay. So Mary, I'll just kick things off and then I'm going to let you introduce yourself. And then we'll jump right into I want to talk about, like we talked in prep, that you must look at the chemistry of your body to figure out how to make yourself more resilient in dealing with burnout and dealing with stress, because a lot of us are making ourselves more susceptible
For
through
sure.
nutrition. Okay, here we go. So, all right. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. My name's Hannah Kitt, and I work with moms who are big working moms, but also big parents. And we work on how to get you out of the chaos and back into a more joy-filled life. And so today we've been talking about burnout, but in this segment, we're going to talk about how nutrition directly relates to burnout and that the chemistry of the body and burnout. That's not something I had considered until I reached out to my good friend, Mary Brooks. So welcome, Mary.
Thank you so much. I always love everything you do, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell us who you are and how in the world you can help us and all these working moms that are going to be listening.
Yeah, so I have a master's degree in nutrition. It's like half nutrition, half exercise physiology. And I've spent a lot of years like kind of dealing with my own, fatigue.
Yeah.
Fatigue is something I became like a very big expert in. And then I have over the years helped many people, from athletes to busy moms to people with autoimmune issues, deal with all kinds of things. But energy is always like kind of at the cornerstone of everything I've ever done.
When you said fatigue expert, I was like, oh, hi, it's me in a past life. But it took a lot and it took a lot of people to help me get away from that. Um,
Yeah.
and I was one of the ones who we've talked about where I was running on 3 cups of coffee and no food. And it was, 11, 12, 1 o'clock. And I was, what did we say yesterday? I was tired but wired.
Higher but wired.
Yep. And
Right.
that's how I functioned.
Right.
So let's talk about how we can set our bodies up to be more resilient to stress rather
Yeah.
than be more susceptible to it.
Correct. Yeah, I think the first thing we just have to acknowledge is that almost everything is a mind-body syndrome.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that you're kind of dealing with the strategies and the choices and the decisions and the way the person's day plays out. But
Mhm.
a lot of that, if you can come alongside of that with what I call sort of energy management and energy balance, then the way that you're going to perceive that stress is going to be a lot better. And we can either make that better or make that worse. But I will say that I think that we have kind of lost the plot when it comes to how to care for our chemistry. We don't get that, right? All we've really learned is what I call sort of like diet culture or hustle culture. And so it is very easy. And no one gets up and says, I'm going to really treat my body like crap today. But that's kind
Right.
of what happens because, and you and I had, I think, a very light bulb conversation when we used the illustration of like, would you let your children go out into the world with no food, no water, no plan, no awareness of like, what does your body need? But that's what most of us do. We start our day.
Yeah, well, I was going to say yes, or when we were prepping, you said, would you let your kids go to school without lunch? Nothing in the world would get in the way of me preparing my children's lunch or knowing that they had money to go buy lunch, right?
Right.
But almost every day I leave my house without preparing my own lunch. And then right now rolls around 12 o'clock and I'm like, oh God, where can I
We've
pick?
had nothing. It's very easy to look
Yeah.
up and just think. So it really has to kind of start with the awareness that like I am the only person that can care for myself.
Yeah.
Women are doers. We take pride in the fact that we care for other people. So
Mhm.
without meaning to check that box, we sort of opt into this culture of self-neglect. And our culture also says we should get a Starbucks and we should have a dish of candy, that we give ourselves a little treat. And then we end up at the end of the day with a bottle of wine and we wonder why we don't feel very good. So we have to kind of rewind that and step into that kind of awareness of like, how do I go through my day and be fueled and fed, so that I'm balanced, so that I am well. Without that, and I'm not saying, eating well is going to make all your cares disappear, but I think the way that you will perceive stress will be a lot better if your chemistry is balanced. And I know that's a nice idea. Now we can talk about like, okay, what does that look like? How does that mean? But it really does, it has to start with like every day I have to make that commitment to self so that I don't end up at the end of the day depleted. And if you are reaching for the cookie at 4 o'clock, a lot of us are like, oh, I have no willpower, I have no discipline. It's not the way it works. Your body is brilliantly designed. And if you are feeling depleted, what are you going to do? You're going to reach for the easiest source of fuel because you're dipping low and then you bring yourself back up. You have to kind of start the day and eat throughout the day and nourish yourself so that you don't end up either that tired but wired or crashing or burning, and also like having those thoughts and feelings that kind of are more about our chemistry than just the situation itself. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think what I hear all that and first the word balance, I'm like, okay, not possible. But I hear a lot of that. And I think, when in the world am I going to have time to do this? Like what are the most simple steps and most effective things that we as working moms can implement today? Because again, ironically, I did make cottage cheese with strawberries, but other than that, I have nothing today. I have my element water.
Okay, well, that's better than, I mean, it is noon.
Right, better than,
Have you had
yeah,
any of
here.
that?
Yeah. Do what?
Okay. I said it is noon. Have you had any? Is that all the fuel you've had?
I've had 2 of these already.
Okay, okay.
And a Waterloo.
All right, so let's start with the principles. The simplest principle I can tell you related to your chemistry is blood sugar, right? So blood sugar or insulin is what is like your master hormone. It's what gives you energy. So having balanced blood sugar throughout the day is probably your best defense. What that looks like is a plate that has some protein, that has some fat, has some fiber on it. So you did pretty well with the cottage cheese and the strawberries because
So,
there's
yeah.
some protein, there's some fat, and then you got some fiber out of those strawberries. Like if we
Okay.
measured it all out, that might be like 200 calories and you might need more like 300 or 400, but it's a good start. I always say like, what is it? I couldn't say like perfect is the enemy of done. Like you're better to be doing some
Mhm.
than nothing, right? And then you can add, right? Then you can get that better. And then lunch, you can get a wrap that has, some protein and a little bit of fiber. You can grab turkey and an avocado and a piece of fruit, right? That's a decent balance. And then a dinner, like a simple protein and a salad. I'm not trying to give anybody a diet. I'm just trying to say like those things will keep your blood sugar balance, and think of it as fuel. And then, the treats, yes, they can come in, but think of those as like my my need to, and then my get to. Like that's kind of
Okay.
how I think of it. Like, what do I need? And then what do I get to?
Does a dip in blood sugar create these cravings, like these 4 o'clock cravings? So
Yeah,
you're saying if we have a steady blood sugar line, whatever,
yeah,
however, we're
yeah.
not going to get, like, I have a jar of Snickers behind me, and inevitably you called it 4 o'clock is carb o'clock.
I call it carb o'clock. I can't like I just
I'll
know
go there.
everyone
Yeah.
starts circling the vending machine or whatever.
Yeah.
You'll eat the stale donut from 2 days ago
Yeah.
because you're like, I just need something. The way to stay out of that trough, and here's why this is relevant to this conversation, because when that blood sugar dips, you will feel shaky, tired,
Mhm.
anxious, overwhelmed, um, irritable, grumpy, right? And then you do reach for the cookie or the carb or whatever. And carbs aren't bad, but they're just better for your blood sugar if you can pair them a little bit better with a protein or a fat. But yes,
Okay.
like if we are not eating until 2 o'clock, then we're just not meeting our needs. And so like, remember that old analogy that was like, eat breakfast like a king, like that sort of like
Yes.
front
Much.
loading your day with a little more protein, with a little more fat, with a little bit more
Yep.
fiber. Because at the end of the day, you run on food. Food is what creates energy, not coffee, not
Yep.
caffeine, not Red Bull, not you get it? So
Yep.
like we just don't think that way.
So is it safe to assume that hydration also directly relates to blood sugar?
No, I mean,
Not. Okay.
hydration doesn't affect blood sugar, but hydration without it, your brain is suffering. Your brain is mostly water. So
Yeah.
like your thinking won't be as clear. You may feel headachy. Your eyesight may not be as well. So all of those things that we need to focus and do our job, you think about the distraction and the overwhelm and the chronic like decision making that we do all day, whether we use Slack or email or text, like we're just going like this. So hydration definitely will make you think more clearly and also detoxify, right? Like if our body is accumulating stuff, like water just helps flush all that out. And most of us are chronically dehydrated.
So what is there, or yeah, is there a rule of thumb on how much water we should be getting?
You can take a million polls.
Okay.
I used to go through that, like take your body weight, divide it in
Yeah.
half and drink that in water. I just think we just need to drink more
Drink.
water. Like I tried never to go into a meeting without a glass of water with me.
Yeah.
And water will, if you haven't had enough water, you are going to suffer from it. You're going to feel yucky. You're going to feel, run down. You're not going to sleep well. So no, it's not blood sugar, but it's super important.
Okay. And you're talking plain water. We're not talking electrolytes. So,
I think you can add the electrolytes into the conversation, but sort of at a minimum. I always say foundations first. Like if you're not drinking enough water and you drink electrolytes, that's not going to get it done for you.
right.
So like at least probably we all need 60 to 80 ounces of water. Electrolytes are sort of like another layer to that because when we are depleted in minerals, so electrolytes usually are potassium, magnesium, sodium, right?
Okay.
If you're stressed out, what happens? You're draining yourself of those minerals. If you're working out, you're sweating those out. So replacing those can be really helpful. And I typically, if I have had caffeine, one nice little trick is like after you've had that, have the electrolytes because it's replacing those minerals in your body and it's bringing your blood volume back up, which is super helpful.
Okay. Okay. So
Make sense?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't drink too much water, it sounds like.
I don't think
Well,
so.
and I've heard just as a country, we are like chronically dehydrated, Americans.
Yes, and then we all walk around with like sodas and all the other things. We always have like a drink in our hand, but it's
Yeah.
not typically replacing the hydration that we need. So like water first and then the other stuff.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So, all right. So blood sugar was the first thing. I don't know if we're doing it in order, but we touched on hydration.
Yep.
I want to really just lay a foundation that helps us be more, what was the word? More resilient to stress. Because I think that's one of the first steps in getting out of burnout and just finding more fulfillment in your life.
Yeah. Then you have to think about, I mean, I'll kind of bring this in on the like hormonal conversation is like our progesterone goes down, right? Which then your progesterone, this is, depending on the age group, but
Mhm.
probably anybody's like late 30s, early 40s, you have that decline in progesterone, which means that your body, that's your like all is well hormone, just keeping it really simple.
Oh, cool.
So, right? So like that means that you have to watch the other stress in your life. And one of the ones we have control over is how we're eating, right? Like if you are creating nutritional stress by under eating, overeating, eating like a lot of carbs in the afternoon, then that means that stress is going to hit you harder. So balanced meals, protein, fat, fiber on a plate. That's easy to do. We can all do that, right? And then I would say that culture of grazing that at least I was raised in, like just eat little meals, that didn't really do us very much,
Did
right? Because what
not.
are you going
Okay.
to eat mostly? What's easy to eat? A
Okay.
Triscuit or a chip,
Yeah.
right? Not a lot of nutritional value. So I know we're all like inundated with the whole protein conversation. I'm not really going to go down that, whatever, but just getting more protein. It's really simple. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, it means it takes longer for it to digest. So if you're looking for like just a simple, why are we talking about protein so much? It's because it lasts longer. If you eat that thing of cottage cheese versus uh, English muffin, that protein stays with you longer.
Okay.
So that's a great way to stay out of those troughs, right? Of like the highs and the lows of the blood sugar.
So in conversation, we've talked about how supplements are to you are kind of the sprinkles on top of your real food nutrition, right? So in this moment, I'd love your feedback. What are protein powders, protein shakes like? And is that efficient, or is it really just better to eat more meat or beans or whatever?
I mean, I think you're always better trying to meet your need with a whole food, eggs, chicken, fish, beans, legumes, because they have other things in there. They have cofactors, they have fiber, they have, we can never really mimic Mother Nature as well as Mother Nature can do it. However, none of us are perfect, right? So having a few supplements on board, things like a protein bar or a protein shake, those can like bridge the gaps. So think of them as like gaps in your, because we're going to have nutritional gaps, or you're on the road and you can't stop and make an egg or even
Mhm.
carry your cottage cheese, but you'd be better off having a quality protein bar or a protein shake so that you can meet those needs, but don't make your entire nutrition like based on those kinds of things.
Right. And that's what I'm finding. I get lost in Instagram. I told you, I see all these ads. I'm like, oh, that supplement's pretty. That's pretty. And all of a sudden I have like 12 things I need to consume in a day when really I should probably just go order a salad. Um,
Yeah.
but I fall victim to that. So it sounds to me like I love this protein, fiber, fat on your plate. And
Mhm.
if we can do that consistently throughout the day in meals, not in grazing, all the while having water in some form or fashion,
Yeah.
then our blood sugar is likely going to stay more flat or not flat. That sounds like we're dead, more level.
Good level.
Mhm.
Right.
And that will help decrease some of the stress that we may carry. I do find that when I have had a good night's sleep, when I do feel, nourished, the dumpster fires that come at me in a work day
Thousand
really
percent.
don't impact me as much as if I'm on
1000%.
cup three of coffee and I've, woke up at 3 a.m.
Right.
with my head running through 1 million thoughts.
Right.
So,
Yeah. If I could have one wish for people that they would, as we sort of said at the top of that conversation, you got to kind of come into the day with prep, with
yeah.
just like you would prepare for your meeting, just you would prepare for a race. Just what's my food strategy for that? Well, how will I get through the day? How will I be fueled so that when I hit 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and I'm going to my family, I don't feel like, oh, I can't handle any of this, right? So that's kind of the strategy. And to come back to the supplement conversation, I always say it's kind of that mental prep first, that awareness of like, how do I care for myself? Then it's executing on the fuel strategy throughout the day. The supplements come last. You cannot, it's sort of like saying my car is breaking down, but I'm going to buy windshield wiper fluid. The supplements are great, but they're not going to do the job. No colostrum, no athletic greens. They're great. I
Okay.
don't diss any of
And I
them, but
have all of them.
they're not gonna get you there.
Okay.
But they're there. I think roll the conversation back. I think if you are feeling tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, it's worthwhile to have those labs checked. So things like iron, vitamin B, vitamin D can make you feel bad. So let's at least make sure that those are checked
A
and those
deficiency in those, a deficiency of
absolutely.
iron, vitamin D. What was the other?
Uh, D,
D
B, and
and iron.
iron. Those three probably are the big ones to check, right?
Most
Because
common in women.
Mhm.
Deficiencies are most common in
I
women.
mean, as a practitioner, I probably looked at thousands of labs, and most people are depleted in those. I'm not trying to create this like, it's worth it, right? To
Yeah.
just know our chemistry and know where we are, right? So those I think are worth
It,
testing, not guessing at.
yeah. And I think I'm so quick, like you said in the beginning, I lean into strategy and mindset and stuff. And so I had not thought about levels of burnout in regards to the chemistry of your body. And
Right.
we're nearing the end of our time. I think we got through one of the four. So we'll have to do this again.
Yeah.
But, but it sounds like really truly focusing on blood sugar, that alone can help make a difference. And what I don't want is for moms to feel overwhelmed in that they have to figure out, when to meal prep and when to get all this stuff in the day. Maybe what's one thing you could add to your diet or one thing you could take away from it. Maybe you add an extra egg in the morning. I want to keep it super simple, something that you guys can implement immediately. Or maybe you take away the 4 o'clock candy bar.
I
Maybe
would say
move the jar.
if you were going to add, probably the biggest mistake people make is they live on coffee until 11 or 12 and that whole fasting thing. It depends on where you are, but I'm going to assume that people who are listening to you are feeling a little worn thin, a little under, this conversation is for them, right? I would say get your breakfast in, have it be a savory versus a sweet breakfast, and have it have ample protein in it because that's going to carry you through the day, right? That would be the thing I would say add. Thing I would say reduce would be a lot of refined sugar and alcohol because when you are in that state, those things are taking away from you. I'm not saying no one can have them for, there really shouldn't be any of those absolutes, but sugar will bring you up and then it will bring you down.
Quickly.
Alcohol, the same thing. You get this big cortisol surge, this big, so it feels good. But then at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, it's waking you up because your body's metabolizing it and it can leave you feeling, what do we call it, anxiety, like the next day.
I've heard that.
Again, I'm not trying to kill anybody's joy here, but I think having those strategies until you feel fortified, till you feel well, till you're eating enough, then I think you can sort of play around with those a little bit. But that would be my best advice to someone who's like, I really am feeling depleted and run down. This is what I need. It's not a moral thing. It's just like, I just need to feel better.
Yeah. So, okay, I think the last thing that would probably be helpful is you've referenced labs a number of times. How would someone go get those and then who would look at them?
I think you can ask your physician to run
Just a
things
general
like,
doctor.
yeah, they should. And if not, you can work with a nutrition professional just to, and I totally think that part of our challenge as a society as women is we are getting this piecemeal and we're not really sure who it's aimed at. Are we trying to like bodybuild or are we trying to, you know what I'm saying? So no one is really having that conversation about where are you? What age and stage of life? What are you experiencing? What do you need? What are your symptoms? And then kind of making a plan. But if you didn't do that, you could listen to this and say, like, yeah, I need to have more protein. I need to have more fiber. If you can just eat one big, huge salad, and I'm not saying salad because I'm dieting, I'm saying salad because of all those leafy greens and those dark pigmented vegetables and those like brightly colored berries. Those will give you a lot of like energy and life, back into your biology.
Right. Okay. I have 1 million questions. I don't want to end, but we need to. I also would love to have you back to talk about fitness, just movement in general, because I'm hearing from my doctors, as an aging woman, I need to do more weightlifting, weight resistance, that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And I mean, I think exercise can be so powerful in us. First of all, in blood sugar, just moving our muscles makes sense. Also, when we're exhausted, what we don't want to do is move our bodies, but actually that can be the exact thing we need. We just have to, it's like a little bit of a Goldilocks, not too little, not too much,
right.
finding that place. And depending on this conversation, if you're feeling burned out, maybe going to CrossFit and signing up for a Tough Mudder isn't the thing you need, right? So and the thing I want to say the most is like what we do when we're under stress is we take on more, right? Because the same people who are feeling burned out are like, I need to go on a diet, right? But we can oscillate through life and know that there are times when exercise we can go harder or we need to go easier. With our food, we can pull back when maybe we are ready to go into a calorie deficit and all the things we hear about, but there are times when that's not appropriate. And knowing that that's okay without being mean to ourselves, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's it. I was going to say before we stop, like, give yourself grace. There's so many shoulds in the world. I should do this. I should do this. So yes, maybe you go into the day with the good intention and then you do reach for a candy bar and that's okay. Like,
Right.
it's just,
It's like your young child who you're like, they're going to eat all of this. And you know what? All they eat for dinner are blueberries.
Mhm.
Haven't we had those days?
Oh, yes,
You're not that different, right?
true.
But now, like having that lesson in chemistry helps us understand that we are a mind and a body.
Yeah.
And why, I'm not saying, like I said, not everything that we experience is because of our nutrition, but it is a good weapon in our like hustle, busy,
Yeah.
overwhelmed life. And if we can be a little more mindful of what we're putting in, then it can help us sleep a little bit better, have a little more mental clarity, have a little more peaceful. And I have seen it myself in my own life. I used to be that person, like the slightest thing would happen, I would just be like, I can collapse. But now knowing how to keep myself in the boundaries has made such a difference. It's like, oh, okay, that's stressful. I can handle it. Like,
Yeah.
also, I'm not going to react to it by being like, I had a bad day. Let me like have all this because I know it's just going to make it worse,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, why would, if I'm already depleted, why would I harm myself? That's how I look at it now. Where before I would have been like, oh, yeah, have all this crap because I've had a bad day. Now I'm like, actually, no, go take a walk, eat a good meal, get a good night's sleep,
Yep.
whole different experience.
That's so true. Recently, someone told me, move your body, still your mind. Because I was having a thing at work and I'm like, oh my God. And it literally was simply me walking outside in our parking lot and it just changed what I was feeling.
1,000%. But we have to practice that before
Yeah.
we know it because that is the last thing we want to do. We'll be like, no, I want to curl up in a
Oh,
ball and
right.
I want to have
Yeah.
candy. If we can train ourselves to be like, actually, if you will take a walk, drink a glass of water, eat a little protein, you're like, oh, I'm actually okay.
I is not falling.
Right? Right?
Awesome. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Self-regulation.
Right, right. But it's baby steps. And so today we did baby steps. We had 4 steps, we did one. So, and
Okay.
that's fine. We're
That's
giving our
progress,
grace for
right? That's
that.
progress.
It was. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
Anytime.
I am so grateful. Amanda and Jamie, I hope that was helpful. I know it was a couple minutes over, but that I love that, Mary. Thank you. And I'll get with you on scheduling a follow-up because I got a lot of questions. And
And if you get Q&A and we can do a
right.
conversation like that, I think the
Yeah.
thing is just please keep in mind that like we are all different. We can all sit in front of the same plate of food, have
Yep.
different response. So like trying to like buy these, form your nutrition from sound bites, including mine, can be a little problematic, but at least it lays the foundation for there is hope.
Mhm.
We just need to learn our chemistry a little bit better. We're not just small men, so
Right, right. God, I'm not editing that part. That is so true. We are not
that's
just
not that's not original content, but that's the problem because we sometimes treat ourselves like small men.
we.
We didn't get a lot of specialized, I would say, sort of chemistry as women. I think that's changing, but
Yeah.
happy to have that conversation anytime.
Well, we will. We'll be scheduling that. I may make that my title. We are not just small men. I love that. Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Have a great day. Thank you, Mary. I so appreciate you. And
Anytime, my friend.
well, be careful what you say. I'm going to reach out a lot.
I love it. All right.
Bye.
Bye.